Good morning, my dear students. Welcome back to the class on history. So we have completed the chapters of civics, the High Court, Supreme Court, Prime Minister and the President. I hope it is clear for you. Can you go through the videos along with the notes so that it will be easy for you to understand. So we'll stop civics because we have completed the syllabus. Now let's come back to history. And today what we are going to learn is the next chapter of history, that is First World War. Okay, and what are the things that you are going to learn in this particular chapter? We are going to learn two different causes of First World War. There is nationalism and imperialism and the division of Europe. And second is the result of the war. What was the result of the First World War? These are the two things that are to be learned in this particular chapter called the First World War. So let's begin with the causes. Before we go to the causes, why is known as First World War? There are two different reasons why it is considered as the World War. Okay, it does not mean that there were wars happening before also, but why it was considered as the World War I or the First World War? The reason is that it was fought on worldwide scale. So it's a worldwide scale. Worldwide scale. Second reason, it affected almost all countries. These are the two reasons why it is considered as a world war. Which means there were wars before this particular First World War also, but those wars were not considered as the world wars. The reason is that there are two reasons for it. The first reason, it was fought on a worldwide scale, which means almost all the countries participated in this particular war, and it affected all the countries, almost all the countries. So these are the two reasons why it is considered as a world war. And let's come to the first point, that is the first reason, that is nationalism and imperialism. Now, how to define this particular nationalism? Nationalism, I think I have told you already in the previous chapters. Nationalism means it is a sense of unity by the people who share common history, language and culture. Which means Indians have got nationalism, which means we have a sense of unity because we share common history, language and culture. Okay, that's what I mean by nationalism. But this particular national, it is good to have nationalism. Nationalism is not a danger. Nationalism is not a bad thing. Nationalism is a good thing. But this particular nationalism was turned into aggressive nationalism. So nationalism is a good thing, but it was turned into aggressive nationalism. Aggressive nationalism. And what does it mean? It means aggressive nationalism means love for one's own country and hatred for the other countries. So it is a dangerous thing to have aggressive nationalism. Nationalism is a common thing because it is a sense of unity by the people who share same common history, language and culture. But this particular nationalism was turned into something called aggressive nationalism. And what does it mean? You love your country and you have hatred for the other countries. Okay, so that is a danger thing that happened. That was the cause for the First World War. And because of this particular aggressive nationalism, the countries began to increase the military strength and gather weapons, and they were concerned about only their own interests, because you love only your country and you have hatred for the other one. So because of this aggressive nationalism, the countries began to increase their military strength, began to gather the weapons, and they were interested or they were worried about only their own interests. Now what do you mean by the term called the imperialism? So there's aggressive nationalism. And what do you mean by the term called imperialism? Imperialism means it is a policy in which a powerful nation establishes its control over another country. A powerful nation establishes its control over another country by two different means. First one is direct territorial acquisition. Directly acquiring the territory. You go to the army and you conquer that particular territory. That's the first method. Second, by gaining political and economic control. Second, economic and political control. This is what is by imperialism. Imperialism is a policy by which a powerful nation establishes its control over another country by two different means. One is by directly acquiring the territory or by gaining political and economic control. Okay, and the conquered country, which means like England came and conquered our country called India, and India became a colony. So this conquered country came to be known by the term called colony. Okay, and the imperial countries, which means the country that conquered a colony, began to govern the colony either by its representatives or by having puppet government. Puppet government means there will be a government in the colony, but they will act only according to the instructions given by the imperial country. So, and they exploited the resources of a colony. So, because of this particular imperialism, what happened was that the powerful countries began to acquire colonies and they began to govern them, exploit the resources. And what did this particular colonies provide? The colonies provided raw materials, cheap labor, agricultural land and trading areas. So that's how now we have both imperial countries and the colonies. Colonies that are conquered by the imperial countries. So the term called imperialism, which means it is a policy by which a powerful country establishes its control over another country, and that particular conquered country came to be known by the term called colony. Now we have got two actions here. How did the imperial countries treat the colonies, and what did the colonies provide to the imperial countries? So we are going to some examples like England and France. England and France, powerful countries, had colonies in Asia and in Africa. And these colonies were important for the imperial countries for collecting the raw materials and for dumping or for selling the finished products. So the colonies became a source of raw materials and also became a market for the finished products. And because of this aggressive nationalism and economic competition, and because of this particular imperialism, there was hatred, tension, fear and doubt in the minds of people. And that's what the term called nationalism and imperialism. So nationalism, which means it is a sense of unity by the people who share common history, language and culture, but this particular nationalism was turned into something called aggressive nationalism, which means you love your country and you hate the other one. Because of the aggressive nationalism, countries began to increase their military strength, began to collect weapons, and they were worried about only their own interests. Now, what is the term called imperialism? Imperialism is a policy by which a powerful nation establishes its control over another country by two different methods, either by directly acquiring the land or by gaining political and economic control. Then the conquered country came to be known by the term called colony, and we learned about two important aspects of it. Two important aspects: how did the imperial countries treat the colony, And what was the condition of the colony? Colonies became a source from where they could gather, they could collect all the raw materials, and the colonies became a market for the finished products. Because of the aggressive nationalism, economic competition and imperialism, there was hatred, there was international tension, there was fear, there were doubts among the people, and all these scenarios, all these policies were slowly preparing the place for the First World War. Okay. Now let's move on to the second cause, that is the division of Europe. We have cleared the first word, the term called the nationalism, aggressive nationalism and imperialism, and the term called the colony. There are four terms that you learn: nationalism, aggressive nationalism, imperialism and colony. There are four terms that you need to understand in the first cause. Now let's come to the second, that is the division of Europe. How was Europe divided? The first one, single nation states. Single nation states. Second is the imperial states. This is how Europe was divided in the first place. Single nation states mean the countries that share common language, common tradition. Which means these countries will have common language and common traditions like France, Poland and Germany. Imperial states means they have got different languages, different traditions like Russian Empire, Austria-Hungary. So this is how it was divided first. Single nation states, it means all those countries that have got common language, common traditions. Imperial states, it means they have got different languages, different traditions. Now, second division, it is the Triple Alliance, and second one is a Triple entity. Triple Alliance, which means there are three countries: Germany, Italy, Austria-Hungary. Germany, Italy, Austria-Hungary on one side, they known as a Triple Alliance. Second, France, Russia and England, known as a Triple Entity. And now what happened to all these divisions? Because of this particular division, the countries began to acquire colonies, and acquiring the colonies created tension and rivalry among the countries, which led to the First World War. So this is how Europe was divided. First one is a single nation states. Second is the imperial states that have got different languages, different traditions. Single nation states have got common language and common tradition. Triple Alliance, three of them: Germany, one side, we have Italy and Austria-Hungary. These are the three countries that form Triple Alliance. Here we have got France, Russia and England. So these are the two causes that led to something called the First World War. So we are learning about the First World War, and I told you why it was known as a World War. The reason you need to understand it clearly. Then we came to the first reason, that is nationalism. There are four terms that we learned: concept of nationalism, concept of aggressive nationalism, concept of imperialism, and the concept of colonies. Next we learned about the division of Europe. There are two different divisions here. First one, single nation states and imperial states. One that has got common language and common traditions. Second, different languages and different traditions. Triple Alliance, Triple Entity. Germany, Italy, Austria-Hungary formed Triple Alliance. France, Russia and England formed Triple Entity. And because of these particular divisions, the countries began to concentrate on acquiring various colonies which created tension and rivalry. So these are the two causes that you need to understand clearly. The next class we will learn about the result. What were the results of this particular First World War? So can you go through the video clearly? And I will set the notes. Try to complete the notes. Okay, children, take care.